Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual science classroom. This is your teacher Daryl Del Mundo, and we are in the third week of our quarter number 4. And to start with, let us have a short prayer. Thank you very much. And for our secretary, do not forget to check the attendance. Okay? Get how many boys and how many girls do we have, add it up, and do not forget to send it in our GC. Okay? Sa group chat natin. Okay? Then, after that, these pictures simply represents to us about the topic of solar energy and the layers of the atmosphere. So, ito yung pag-uusapan natin for this new topic in our third week. Regarding this topic, in this supplementary learning material, we will help you to learn for our lesson number 1, know about solar energy and the layers of the atmosphere. So we will basically focus on lesson number 1 first. Next week, we will focus on the interactions in the atmospheres. So basically, ito muna yung pag-uusapan natin, yung lesson number 1. So looking back, if you have a previous knowledge about this topic, I assure you, you can answer this one. So direction, write the name of the layer or part of the atmosphere that answers the riddles. So we have 5 riddles here, and then understand and comprehend the riddles. Okay, so that you will be able to answer what is asked. So we have here the illustration or the different layers of the atmosphere. Okay, we have number 1, Troposphere. We have number 2, Stratosphere. We have Mesosphere, Thermosphere, and Exosphere. Based on your previous knowledge or your knowledge maybe that you remembered, I want you to answer these 5 riddles. Let us have an example for number 1. I have the coldest temperature of the atmosphere. Who am I? The correct answer is Mesosphere. So Mesosphere is the coldest part or layer of the atmosphere. So you will answer number 2 to number 5. And as our topic goes by, you will be able to understand those riddle as well. Okay, so let's start for lesson number 1. Solar energy and the atmosphere. So what is the relationship between this solar energy to the atmosphere? Is there any significant or maybe importance between the relationship of the two? So let's find out. As a brief introduction, the Earth is completely surrounded by a sea of air, known as the atmosphere. The pull of the Earth keeps this sea of air close to the Earth. Without the atmosphere, life cannot exist on Earth. For the atmosphere contains oxygen, the life-sustaining gas. We know that we cannot live without the oxygen gas. So from the air, plants get carbon dioxide needed in order to live. So we all know that plants needed carbon dioxide for them to produce oxygen as their byproduct. So the layer of air also protects us from the intense radiation. So nagsuserve siya as a covering for the direct heat of the sun. So without this layer of air, yung atmosphere natin, maybe we can get burned because we are the third planet away from the sun. Okay, so basically, it lessens the heat of the sun when it passes through the atmosphere. So day by day, it too much loss of heat by night. So yun yung importansya ng ating atmosphere basically for protection and for living organisms to be able to live as well. So remember that air is a mixture of many gases. So pag sinabi nating air, it is not just oxygen, it is not just carbon dioxide, but a lot of gases. It is a mixture. Okay? So next, the question is, what information do we learn from the third column? So we have here the average composition of the atmosphere. Ano yung nga ba yung binubuo? Ano nga ba yung bumubuo sa atmosphere natin? So before we answer this question, I want you to look at this table. So at the first column, we have substance. Second and third column, which is the percentage by volume of at sea level and about 9 kilometers up. Okay, so let's have the substance. We have nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, neon, helium, krypton, xenon, radon, water vapor. Those are the substances that can be found in the atmosphere. And at sea level, they vary in the percentage by volume. So nitrogen, for instance, 78.3, which is the most abundant gas that can be found in the atmosphere. Then followed by oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, which is 1.01, neon, which is 0.00123, then helium, 0.004, then so on. And sometimes radon, okay, it can be traced at sea level. On the other hand, about 9 kilometers up, so meaning to say, uh, hindi na siya about sea level lang, about 9 kilometers up. So nitrogen gas, as you can see, it went up, and oxygen gas, it went down. Okay, then argon, 0.03, went down again, and then carbon dioxide cannot be traced anymore. Hydrogen can be traced because hydrogen is the lightest gas. Okay, then we have neon, it cannot be traced. Helium can be traced because helium, we know that this is the second lightest gas. Okay, kaya yung mga lobo na may helium gas, it will go up. So the question a while ago is, what information do we learn from the third column, which is this one? Okay, we can learn that first, we learn that there is a very little oxygen high up in the atmosphere. So we have here from 20.99 at sea level, then it went down to 7.0. What is the reason behind? So the reason behind is, for example, hikers experience difficulty in breathing when they climb high mountains. So kapag umaakit ka ng bundok, pinakamataas na part ng bundok, nahihirapan ka ng huminga because the oxygen levels decreases. Okay, bumababa yung oxygen level kapag tumataas ka. So ang nangyayari, nagkakaroon ka ng paghirap sa paghinga. Okay? So mataas na tong 9 kilometers up, this is above sea level na. Okay, kung nasa sea level ka, marami-rami pa. Am I clear? Kaya kung mas tumaas ka pa, mas kukunti na yung oxygen level. So mas mahihirapan ka ng huminga. Diba? And next, second question. What information do we learn from the third column? So the answer, secondly again, we learn that the composition of air is not uniform. Meaning to say, it is different from one to another throughout the atmosphere. They are not the same. So for an instance, we have nitrogen, 78.3. Then we have oxygen, 28.99 compared to the third column. Okay? And then we have carbon dioxide, and then it is not evident or it cannot be traced in the third column. So we have 0.01 hydrogen, which is very low at sea level, but it is very high in the third column, which is 9 kilometers up. And then radon cannot be traced in the third column, but at sea level, it can be traced. May konting radon, okay, na matatagpuan. So the gases or the composition of the air is not uniform, meaning to say it varies. Iba-iba siya. Okay? So it is not the same throughout the atmosphere. Tandaan niyo yan. And then, next question is, what if the concentration of carbon dioxide and nitrogen were reversed? Paano nga ba ito mangyayari? Diba? At what if kung mangyayari ito? What will happen? So the answer is, the 0.03% concentration of carbon dioxide is sufficient to keep Earth warm and permits life exist. Increasing its concentration to 78% will greatly increase Earth's temperature. So, yun naman yung medyo bad side. Okay? Although water vapor and carbon dioxide make up a very small amount of the gases in the Earth's atmosphere, they are very important because of their ability to absorb heat. These gases not only produce important weather features such as cloud and rain, but also have considerable influence on the overall climate of the Earth through the greenhouse effect and global warming. These two terms are very, very important nowadays. Greenhouse effect and global warming, which is a very big issue in this time of our generation. Okay, so let us continue so that we will be understand uh, more and much deeper when it comes to the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, so that's how the solar energy plays an important role with our atmosphere. It serves as a protection and it varies from one layer to another. So that because of differences of its composition of air, meaning to say that different composition of the air in the atmosphere consists also of different layers. Am I clear? So Earth's atmosphere is relatively thin, extending up to at least 500 kilometers, which is 300 miles above the planet's surface. The atmosphere is structured in different layers according mainly to the variations in temperature. So basically, they are divided or they are in different layers because they have different temperature. Okay? So here are the layers of the Earth. Let's start from nearest to the landforms or our sea level. So we have the Troposphere, and then followed by the Stratosphere, followed by the Mesosphere, followed by the Thermosphere, and then the last layer of the atmosphere is the Exosphere. So as you can see, this is the temperature of Troposphere and Stratosphere, Mesosphere, and so on. So these temperatures differs from one to another, as you can see. Okay, and then this is the altitude and the different objects that can be found in the atmosphere. So for example, the troposphere, we can see a hot air balloon, a passenger plane, and in the stratosphere, we can see there different radio sound. Okay, and then at the mesosphere, we can find there the meteorological rocket, and then some meteors that enters the atmosphere. And then we have here the aurora borealis that can be found in the thermosphere. And then in the exosphere, we can find there the spaceship and then other satellites as well. So you have a lot of marks and signs, okay, for you to know where layer you are now. Okay, so let's continue. So how does the temperature vary in the atmosphere? So in the troposphere, temperature is about negative 15 degrees Celsius to negative 56.5 degrees Celsius. That's so-called. While stratosphere from negative 56.5 degrees Celsius to negative 2.5 degrees Celsius. Mesosphere range from negative 2.5 degrees Celsius to negative 85.0 or negative 85 degrees Celsius. And then we have thermosphere, which ranges from 86.5 degrees Celsius to 1,200 degrees Celsius. Then exosphere, that is 1,200 degrees Celsius to 2,000 degrees Celsius and above. Okay, so we will examine each layer of the atmosphere. So we will start the discussion to the very first layer that is found in the troposphere. So which is the lowest layer known as the troposphere, which makes up approximately 75% of the total mass of the atmosphere. and contains 99% of the atmosphere's water. So lahat ng water vapor nandyan. It is the bottom 16 to 18 kilometers layer of the atmosphere where winds, clouds, and water vapor are found. And take note, this is also where weather phenomena occur. Air temperature in the troposphere typically decreases as altitude increases. Kaya pag umaakit kayo ng bundok, di ba, ng matataas na lugar, mas lumalamig. Because the more you increase your altitude, the temperature decreases. So umakit ka ng Baguio, umakit ka ng Tagaytay, the temperature there is colder than when you go down to Manila. Okay, so as a result of the three mechanisms of heat transfer, radiation, conduction, and convection, you will experience different temperature when you go up or when you go down. Okay, so the average rate of temperature decrease is about 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometers of altitude increase. So kung pupunta kayo ng, sabihin natin, ng Mount Ulap, o isa yung sa pinakamataas, sobrang lamig na doon. So magdala kayo ng siguro mga 2 or 3 jacket. Okay, when you go to Baguio, you know that. When you go to Tagaytay, you know that it has a very cold wind because when you go up to the altitude of those places, always remember the temperature decreases. Okay? And at the same time, solar radiation passes through Earth's atmosphere and heats up the planet's surface. So, importante rin yung solar radiation. This is another interaction between the atmosphere and solar energy. The oceans and land absorb approximately half of this incoming solar radiation, while a small fraction is emitted back into the atmosphere as infrared radiation. So yung iba, di ba, pumapasok yung solar radiation and then it will bounce back. It will emitted back outside of the Earth in the form of infrared radiation. The heat absorbed by Earth's surface is then transferred directly from the land or the water to the cooler air closest to the surface through conduction. The direct spread of heat from one substance to another. You remember that heat transfer, right? Last quarter, we tackled about conduction, convection, and radiation. Once heated, this air becomes less dense or lighter. Mas gumagaan kasi ang air kapag naiinitan and rises through a process called convection. Kaya di ba kumukulo yung tubig, umaangat yung mga bubbles because the air inside the water becomes lighter, gumagaan in the process of convection. Kaya sila umaangat-angat, nagiging water vapor. So as the air rises, it expands and discharges its heat as it flows upward through the troposphere. After the heat is discharged and the air cools, it becomes denser and begins to sink. So pag akit niya, dun sa taas dahil mainit, lalamig siya. Pag lumamig na yung air, bababa siya ulit. Nagiging denser siya. Pag mainit, nagiging lighter or gumagaan yung air kaya umaangat. Kapag naman nalamigan siya, magiging denser or magiging mabigat, bababa naman yung air. Okay? So that's how it works. Consequently, the troposphere is generally warmest near Earth's surface, and coolest at its highest point. So take note of that. Warmest near Earth's surface and coolest at its highest point. Next, we have the stratosphere. So stratosphere, where the ozone layer is located. The next layer is known as the stratosphere, extends from the troposphere upward to approximately 50 kilometers above the surface or the Earth's surface. In the stratosphere, temperature rise with increasing altitude. The absorption of ultraviolet radiation in the ozone layer that is found in the stratosphere causes temperature to increase. UV absorption is greatest at the uppermost level of the stratosphere. Hence, air temperature is also highest in this region. Kaya medyo mainit-init sa stratosphere. The pause at the top of the stratosphere is the stratopause or stratopause rather. Okay, so yan yung pause na makikita natin sa part ng stratosphere, the stratopause. Next layer is Mesosphere. So above the stratosphere lies the mesosphere, which stretches to approximately 90 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. In the mesosphere, temperature begins to decrease again. So tumaas yung temperature sa stratosphere, ngayon naman sa mesosphere bumaba. The mesosphere's lower temperature results in part from the low concentration of ozone. So wala na siya sa ozone layer kaya yung UV radiation is a little bit lesser na, okay? Or lower na at this point. So little solar radiation is absorbed in this layer like what I have said a while ago. The mesosphere is dark with air pressure so low that a human could not survive in this layer. So you can see there the meteor. Dahil malamig, okay, at ang meteor mainit, so nagkakaroon siya ng friction. So meron tayong tinatawag na silver lining. Okay, yan yung mga bulalakaw or yung falling star na sinasabi niyo, but those are not falling star, okay? Those are meteors. Stars, it cannot fall. Okay? So stars are there in their own respective area, but meteors are the silver lining that you saw in the darkest part of the night. Kaya nagkakaroon ng meteor shower or nagkakaroon ng shooting star because of that friction between the coldest part of the mesosphere and the hottest part of the meteor because it rapidly wanted to get inside the Earth. Okay? So dahil sobrang bilis niya, nagkakaroon ng silver lining or silver tail yung itsura ng meteor kapag dumaan siya sa mesosphere. Then we have the thermosphere. So the thermosphere lies above the mesosphere and extends approximately 600 kilometers beyond Earth's surface. Temperature begins to increase again. Tumaas, bumaba, tumaas ulit, right? So from the word thermos, meaning to say, mainit yung part na to, yung layer na to ng atmosphere. So in the thermosphere, the temperature increases or inversion is due in part of the absorption of UV and X-ray radiation and the impact of the solar wind, a continuous stream of protons and electrons given off by the sun. So space shuttles fly in this area and it is also where the auroras are found. So ito yung aurora borealis, yung makikita nyo sa Netherlands. Yan. So kung gusto yung pumunta sa mga malalamig na lugar, dahil nagkakaroon ng interaction yung cold wind at yung hotter part ng thermosphere, kaya nagkakaroon ng aurora borealis. Okay, para siyang colorful or rainbow curtain matatagpuan sa night sky. Okay, ng colder places. And then the last part is the exosphere, from the word exo meaning to say outside or the outer part. The exosphere represents the outermost layer of the Earth's atmosphere. It extends from the top of the atmosphere to 10,000 kilometers above Earth's surface. In this layer, atoms and molecules escape into space, and higher altitude satellites orbit our planet. Almost all of the energy available at Earth's surface comes from the sun. So, total darkness. Yan na yung total darkness part of the atmosphere, the exosphere. And at the same time, a little bit hotter na rin sa part na to kasi mas malapit-lapit na siya sa araw. Okay? And here's the Earth's energy budget. I want you to look at this diagram. So start from the sun. Remember, the main energy came from the sun. And then what happened is that it radiates. Okay, and then we have here the pollution, and it bounced back the heat from the sun. And then when the sun hit directly to the ground, it will go back upward to the atmosphere. So this is the Earth's energy budget, and it simply represents, or this figure illustrates, Earth's incoming and outgoing radiation. This is the incoming solar energy or solar radiation. This is the infrared radiation, outgoing radiation. Is that clear? Okay, so what is the greenhouse effect? So the greenhouse effect is like this. I want you to look at this one. Any idea? Yes, because the greenhouse effect or the greenhouses allow sunlight to enter but prevent heat from escaping, as you can see. The atmosphere becomes red, meaning to say it becomes hotter. The transparent covering of the greenhouse allows visible light to enter without obstruction. It warms the inside of the greenhouse as energy is absorbed by the plants, soil, and other things, the building, or the other things that can be found inside the buildings. Then, air warmed by the heat inside is retained. We know that. So, by the roof and wall part of the greenhouse gases, since it is very clear, it traps, okay, natatrap niya yung init dun sa loob ng greenhouse. So, the transparent covering also prevents the heat from leaving the reflecting energy back into the walls and preventing outside winds from carrying it away. So, yung clear part ng greenhouse gases, it plays also like the atmosphere. Kasi ang atmosphere natin is a clear covering, right? Tapos yung greenhouse naman, yung makikita nyo to sa Baguio, makikita nyo to sa mga taniman, yung clear na parang bahay, okay? Because that clear wall serves as the trapping effect. Okay, para mainitan yung loob ng greenhouse na yon na i-absorb at gagamitin ng plants and soil and other things inside that building for their growth and development. Okay, but in this part, in the greenhouse effect, it is not that good. Okay, hindi siya ganong magandang epekto talaga. Okay, dun sa ating Earth. Lalong-lalo na ngayon, di ba? Because greenhouse effect, mamaya malalaman nyo at makikita nyo kung anong itsura na. So this is the greenhouse. So in a greenhouse, the glass lets the light go in, but traps the heat energy and raising its temperature. So ayan, papasok yung heat and then matatrap na yung heat sa loob. It allows the solar energy comes in, but the solar energy traps inside. So ganun yung nangyayari. Isipin nyo, inside the earth, natrap yung init. What will happen? What will happen to the North Pole? What will happen to the South Pole? Ano sa tingin nyo mangyayari sa yelo? Diba? Nakatira ka sa mainit na lugar, ano kaya mangyayari? Nakatira ka malapit sa dagat. Pag natunaw yung mga yelo na yon, what will happen? See? Okay, so this is another thing about greenhouse effect. The Earth's atmosphere is compared to a greenhouse. Besides nitrogen and oxygen, Earth's atmosphere contains trace gases such as carbon dioxide, water vapor, methane, and ozone. Like the glass in the greenhouse, the trace gases have a similar effect on the sun's rays. So, delikado rin yung mga ibang trace gases na yan. So, let's dig more about this greenhouse effect. Another illustration. They allow sunlight to pass through, resulting in the warming up of the Earth's surface. It's good in such a way. It will give energy to some plants, trees, and also to us. But trapping the heat inside the Earth is not good. But they absorb the energy coming from the Earth's surface, keeping the Earth's temperature suitable for life on Earth, which is good. This process is called greenhouse effect. And the trace gases are referred to as greenhouse gases. Yung mga matatagpuan na trace gases. Okay? Na nakakatulong din sa mga na effect na makakapag-trap ng air or ng warm air doon sa loob ng Earth. Yun yung mga greenhouse gases. Yung mga carbon dioxide. Ayan. Yung example natin kanina. So, and has greenhouse effect. This is very, very dangerous. The enhanced greenhouse effect. Because when people burn more and more organic matter, the amount of carbon dioxide in the air increase dramatically. Remember, carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, one of the greenhouse gases. Add to, we can say that the fact that there are other greenhouse gases aside from carbon dioxide and water vapor, this includes methane, nitrogen oxide, and CFCs. Ito yung mga chlorofluorocarbons. Ano itong mga chlorofluorocarbons? Ito yan. Paggamit ng refrigerator, paggamit ng air condition, at paggamit ng mga spraying bottle. Okay, yung mga pag-spray-spray natin ng mga methane, ayan, yung mga pylox and all, those are CFCs or chlorofluorocarbons that add up to the greenhouse effect. Kaya siya nagiging enhanced greenhouse effect. So the result may be an unusual increase in temperature. Kaya mainit yung nararanasan natin ngayon. This is known as the enhanced greenhouse effect. So nagkakaroon ng mga wildfires and another related incident that is related also to the increasing temperature. And it is because of us as well. So let's proceed. So the enhanced greenhouse effect can contribute much to global warming. So nagkaroon ng greenhouse effect. So therefore, what will be the product? The global warming. Not just in one country, not just one part of the globe, but entire world. The earth is affected by global warming. So it is prolonged and will bring about climate change. And the world is now experiencing various consequences of global warming and climate change such as rising sea level. Yung part na yan, kung mapapansin nyo, natutunaw yung yellow and it increases the sea level. Dumadami yung tubig. And at the same time, floods, yung mga pagbaha, yung sobrang pagbabaha ng ibang lugar, especially here in the Philippines, flood is so dangerous. Droughts, yung mga tagtuyot, yan, because of heat waves, sobrang tagtuyot, ito yung El Nino. Okay, hindi na magamit yung lupa for planting some crops and for livelihood matters. So nagkakaroon ng mga ganyan na nakaka-apekto rin sa ating mga ekonomiya. And lastly, wildfires. Recently sa Australia and other parts of Canada, nagkakaroon ng wildfires because of the increasing temperature. And we also need to be aware. That is why, as a student, as a citizen, we should take care also our environment so that this will not happen very severe. Okay, so if you understand it well, all you have to do is to watch this video and review everything, then answer in your Google Classroom. You have your module there. So for lesson number 1, answer the following, the pre-test. And then number 8 is the performance task. I will post it separately and answer page 9 for your post-test. So basically, only pre-test and post-test to be answered in your Google Classroom. Okay? And then if you have any questions, if you have any clarifications, you can reach me through my social media accounts. Okay, to my YouTube, my Instagram. If your messenger is not working, then basically on my Facebook page. If you cannot reach me to my Facebook page, go to my personal account, but not all the time. Okay, so I hope you learned something today and be eager and learn more about our Earth's current situation. So that's all for today, our quarter 4 week number 3. Goodbye, God bless you, and have a nice day.